Take a vagabond.
Hi, this is Mark and this is Lisa, and we're the Vagabond Dreamers. We're sitting outside Hohenwerfen Castle.
Very good. Okay, done.
Just south of Salzburg, after having spent a week in Vienna. It was really an amazing city, eh?
It really was. As far as city goes, and you know, I'm kind of a country mouse now, Vienna was spectacularly beautiful as far as cities go.
But before we get to the city itself, tell us about the way up here.
So we were leaving from just north of Udine, in Italy, and we had a 4.5-hour drive planned. Now, we took the scenic route, which meant that we had about 55 switchbacks through the Italian Dolomites, which we were very much looking forward to. So we figured maybe we would be in Vienna by 5, maybe 5:30. No, in 5 or 5.5 hours. There we go. So a pretty solid trip. Everything seemed good. And it was beyond amazing when we started. We left Italy, we got into Slovenia. And Slovenia, we had to stop, like, I think maybe 4 times. The water is icy blue and just visually stunning. So we hiked to a big waterfall, little hike, big waterfall, and then we stopped at probably 3 different gorge areas in Slovenia, did some fun stuff, and knew that we had to pick up the pace. So we did, and we went through the Italian Dolomites. About 55 switchbacks was the plan, and everything was on course. I think we were traveling for maybe 3 hours? 3 hours until we got to the top of the pass, and there was no passing. Road closed.
They're doing all this construction, and the road is totally closed.
Cannot get through.
Cannot get through. We had to go all the way back down, all back through 55 switchbacks. And we got to the tourist office at the bottom and said, how do we get around this? And the guy says, well, just wait 3 hours. They open it again at 5. And I'm like, wait 3 hours? No. So we figured it out, and we got back on the road. Because we just can't do the easy stuff. Lisa has decided to go in this river, which is formed by water from a melting glacier. It's going to be very cold, but she's going to try.
I want to find a rock. I want to get my feet wet.
Well, you're going to have to get your feet wet, or it's not worth.
Take my shoes off then.
It's not worth doing the video.
Well, I know, but you kind of picked a rough area.
Well, you know.
Well, you know. Going in for a soca. Not that cold.
Really? She wouldn't admit it if it was.
Woo!
There we go.
This is amazing. Tell you what, I'm gonna soak up my knee. It's frigid. It's really cold.
I would think.
It's like Lake Superior. Wow. Wow. Literally cold. Oh, I have a headache. Oh, God.
Well, she did admit it. I knew she wasn't going to, but it broke her down.
It's really cold.
It broke her down. And that was the boring part of the ride, because it was freeway all the way into Vienna. It took us, what, 9 hours?
It took us more than 9 hours to get to Vienna.
So that was a bummer.
That was the trip. But, you know, it was a bummer, but it was also beautiful. So the bouillet part of the trip.
Yeah. The next morning, we got up and went to Bratislava in Slovakia. I was very interested in this because I wanted to see what was happening in these countries that used to be behind the Iron Curtain. And we had spent one night in Romania, and we saw a number of the transitions still trying to be worked out, and the same was here. But Bratislava was really I don't know if you want to say cute town, but it was really gorgeous.
Yeah.
We did a castle tour there, not the paying kind.
And we don't pay for stuff.
Walked around, saw just really marvelous sculptures.
Yeah, we got to walk on the Danube too.
Right on the Danube. We were going to have lunch there. Just a really beautiful town, and it was really making the transition really in the 30 years really quite well.
Yeah.
But Bratislava, definitely a place to spend some time at. Getting back into Vienna, one of the things that we really noticed was the transportation system.
Stellar.
Really, the trams, the subways. We parked the car and we never took it out of the garage the whole rest of the trip.
Right.
Getting along was easy. The downside of it is we're both sitting here with chest colds, and
We picked something up, and I'm pretty sure it was on the tram or the subway. But
very crowded at times.
it happens.
But what an efficient system all through the city. It
and
was
cheap.
Yeah, and cheap. It was great. What about the food?
I'm not a huge meat person, but I could eat. I don't think it's Wiener Schnitzel. I don't know. I
it's
can't
not
pronounce
Wiener Schnitzel.
anything, but they're long sausages, and they're just so good. So I think we had those for lunch
Every day.
Yeah, every day, except for one where I had a sandwich, which I tried to replicate and couldn't do it. So good. So good. Food was great.
And buying the street food like that was really a find, because spending a lot of time sitting in restaurants really takes away from some of the touring. And one of the things that I really wanted to see was on the list that must do was the Vienna Opera House. And here we did take an official tour.
We did.
The history of it goes back for me quite a bit, and mostly through John Irving books, where he writes extensively and sets in Vienna. And I was just really curious about the Opera House. We went in there, and this was the perfect emblem of the power of the Habsburgs. And this was the empire that ran Central Europe for hundreds of years. Lots of problems, which we don't have time to get into, but if you want to see the glorious nature of the Habsburgs, start at the Vienna Opera House. We almost
bought tickets, early Christmas presents to go to an opera.
Almost laid down the $500 and then decided not to do it.
Yeah.
But it really was a sensational couple hours of looking at all the art, and this is omnipresent throughout Vienna, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You got to do something you really liked.
I did. So I love horses. And the Spanish horses are set in Vienna. They didn't originate in Vienna, but that's where their entire operation, as far as the performance horses, takes place. So we had purchased tickets, cheap tickets, to go to the warm-up. In fact, the performance tickets were kind of sold out, I think, when we were looking at it. So we went to the warm-up. It was lovely. Mark was a sport, because it wasn't all that entertaining, but they're beautiful horses, and it was really cool. And then Mark really wanted to go see more museums and statues and dead people, and decided that maybe I needed to go see the Lipizzans in action. So we found a ticket, standing room only, was just fine for a full performance, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Goodbye.
Wow, good old mountain air for you. Blew the camera right off the prop. To finish up, though, the Lipizzaners were really, really awesome. For somebody that enjoys performance horses, has worked with horses, it was truly something that I'll cherish, having been able to experience.
Well, while she was doing the horses, I was at the Albertina, because one of my favorite artists of all time, Albert Dürer, they had a huge exhibit of it. And I'm going to flash through all the pictures. There were 100 of them as etchings. And I really, really enjoyed that. He's a remarkable artist of the Renaissance, somewhat unusual in many ways, often depicts himself in his paintings, sometimes as Christ. Really interesting dude. and I enjoyed that. And it was, you know, a string of these cultural things that we were able to do in Vienna. You know, music and art and architecture. Just, you know, we stopped and had lunch. I think you took another nap in front of Maria Theresa's memorial. And again, she's the only female leader of the Habsburg, the Austrian Empire. Put a lot of restraints put on her because she was a woman, but she did remarkable things in reforming that country, allowing some women's rights and allowing education and things that no other person had ever thought to do. So we went to that. It was a really wonderful monument and did take a little nap after our food.
Well, and what's cool about the city is that it has all of these cultural, historical things, but it also has easy walkable streets. Some streets are closed off to cars. The parks are utilized by so many people. So it's really a social place to be, but also to appreciate and learn about history and culture and art.
Yep. Stopped in at the National Library. Got a little bit overwhelmed by the exhibit there. They were celebrating 80 years of independence from Germany at the end of World War II. Pretty sobering photo essay throughout the entire fabulous State Hall at the museum, at the library. There's just every day something like that. And you mentioned the streets. I think, you know, all the videos we've done so far are these narrow streets in these old towns. Yeah. Here, wide promenades. Just, you never felt like, there were so many people there, but you never felt crowded ever.
Not at all.
It was great.
Let's go blue!
There we go.
We went out to the gardens.
We did. So we went out to the palace, the Schönbrunn Palace. So, okay, these are hard words. And we didn't do a tour of the palace, but we did do the tour of the gardens, which were beyond description, honestly. So we have lots of pictures. We met, so it's a complicated place because there are so many different kinds of gardens. So the map, you really have to navigate. We met this two couples that looked like they were confused about where to go, as were we. And I think they needed to navigate around the palace tour. Anyway, we talked for a few minutes, had some smiles, some greetings, and then everybody went on their way. So we were excited to see these gardens, and there's so many of them. And Mark's going to talk more about the different gardens that we saw, and we have pictures. But when we got up to the Gloriette Gardens, which is the gardens that overlook the entire, most of the rest of the palace area, we ran into these couples again, and they recognized us, and then we talked, and they're from the United States. One from Arizona, the other one from California, and we had such a delightful conversation. And that kind of stuff is fun when you just run into people and make a connection immediately. And we took pictures and videos, and it was super cool.
Yeah, it was really a great time. Back to the gardens a little bit. I wanted to go there to see the maze.
He's a puzzle man. I don't do puzzles.
The royals had to amuse themselves. They had a lot of free time. And so at these gardens are a couple of a labyrinth and a maze. And it was a really fun time for me.
It was.
And not that much fun for Lisa.
Oh.
But I really, really enjoyed it. And it was a really spectacular day to be spending outside with. She's annoyed. She echoed what I just said. I have a scintillating narrative for you.
So annoyed.
All of these manicured gardens, some needing more manicured than others, but it really gave you a sense of how these
opulence.
Yeah, and how these people lived outside the city of Vienna. And often they built these palaces to escape the tension and the revolution that sometimes would foment in the city. So kind of like a Austrian Versailles, if you will. Just, you know, all through this trip though, you're just immersed in culture. You can't avoid it. We didn't get to do a 50th of what we could have done.
No.
Just the whole sense of that town is just really, in a way, really chill, right?
It really was chill.
The traffic
Yeah.
was easy. The people were kind.
Yeah.
It really was a great time and a great city to visit, and I'm so glad we had a chance to spend some time there.
I know Mark is feeling like he could live in that city, you know, and I would have to meet him every other weekend or something. I loved it, but it's not my vibe. But anyway, that's not to minimize what fun we had and how much we learned and how much we walked. I think the day we went to the Schönbrunn Gardens, we put in close to 10 miles.
We do a lot of walking on this trip, that's for sure. Well, this is our last night in Vienna, and as most of the walkaways we've done in this whole series have been very glamorous locations. Once again, here we are in the laundry room in the basement of our hotel, because it's important to know that on a 9-month trip, it ain't all glamorous all the time. But what'd you think of Vienna?
Vienna was really, really fun. It was super walkable, and the buildings were amazing, and I really, really enjoyed Vienna.
Yeah, it's been a great, great visit here. It's a city that I could definitely find to live in if I really had to. It's really wonderful. The people are great. We're leaving here in the morning to head out to Western Austria and the mountains. So Lisa is, yes, this has been Lisa the whole time in Vienna, but we'll have some great hikes and pictures of lakes and mountains in our next video. I'm Mark, and this is Lisa, and we're the Vagabond Dreamers.
And take a vagabond dream of vagabond fool. I ain't too proud to beg, but I'm playing it cool. I can do the time, I can do the walk when I'm walking with you.
Start it, and then how did our trip start?
What's the, I don't remember, there's Hohenwerfen?
Hohenwerfen. 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 Say it. Hohenwerfen. I'll correct you if you're wrong, and I'll say it all wrong, okay? Right.
Hi, this is Mark, this is Lisa, and we're the Vagabond Dreamers. We're sitting here at
Hohenwerfen.
Hohenwerfen.
There we go. Hohenwerfen.
We'll try it again.
Okay. Hohenwerfen.
Hi, this is Mark, and this is Lisa. We're the Vagabond Dreamers. We're sitting here outside
Hohenwerfen Castle.
One more time.
Okay.
Hohenwerfen.
Hohenwerfen. Hohenwerfen. I'm going to say it after you anyway.